I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. I just.
What do you think about May 8th? For Mate's Day.
It's my Mate's Day.
Yeah, they want to do it May 8th. For like a
Partners or men?
no, like mate, like instead of Australia, celebrating Australia Day.
Thank you. Let's do that
Nation
one.
Day. They want to put that and change the date of Australia Day to May the 8th. So it's like mate, mateship, May the 8th. And I'm really for that. We should get rid of the 26th of January altogether, I think.
As part of my social work.
Just tell it. Yeah, so yeah, it's the barbecue starting and the other thing is starting.
Good afternoon. We're going to just cease serving the barbecue while the proceedings are on, but the barbecue will recommence service after the ceremony. Good afternoon and welcome to the 2017 National Sorry Day ceremony at Tafe, New South Wales, Ultimo. I'm Deborah Hyam. I'm the Associate Director of Student Learning and proudly I'm the MC for this very special event. I'd like to start our Sorry Day ceremony by acknowledging the original custodians of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I sincerely pay my respects to Aboriginal elders, both past and present, and Aboriginal people with us here today. I'd like to extend a special welcome to our special guests. I have Uncle Ray Davison, Gadigal elder from the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, who's going to do our welcome to country. Auntie Del McCurry, Aboriginal elder and member of the Stolen Generation. Jeannie Bartley, member of the Stolen Generation and a Eora alumni student. Uncle Willie Leslie, member of the Stolen Generation and staff member at Eora. These three people bravely shared their story this morning at Eora College, and it's very hard to walk away without being affected by their stories. Special welcome to Danny Allende, College Director of Eora and Assistant Director Aboriginal Pathways, who is changing a lot of participation through what he's doing. Thank you, Danny. And Michael Parkins sends his apologies, who's the manager of our Yalang unit. I'd now like to invite Uncle Ray Davison, Gadigal elder, to do the official welcome to country.
Thank you so much. Hello everyone, my name is Uncle Ray Davison. I'm here today on behalf of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Lands Council. The Lands Council and its members being the custodians to the clan groups of the Eora Nation. Give me permission today to come along and welcome you all to Aboriginal land. It's wonderful being here. Look, each and every time I have the opportunity to give Welcome to Country, I like to express to the people that I'm talking to the importance of Welcome to Country, and I'm sure that you all are aware that Welcome to Country goes back many thousands of years. We've always had Welcome to Country when we have big celebrations and big corroborees, and we always celebrate Welcome to Country by song and dance. It's done today as I'm doing it orally. It's no less significant, and it still has the same importance. Today is a gathering, today is a corroboree, so once again I've been invited along to welcome you all to Aboriginal land. And remember this too, that I like just reminding people when I do Welcome to Country that we have one mother, and that's Mother Earth. Mother Earth knows each and every one of us, and she loves us all equally. It doesn't matter who we are, where we come from, we're all loved the same. And it doesn't matter if you've been on country for 10,000 years or 1 year or a new child born today, you all belong, or we all belong. And naturally I look around and I see people here today with your heritage from overseas. That owns you, it owns you, it's part of you, and it'll always be part of you. But when you're born on country and your children are born on country, just remember they're part of country. So each and every time I pay respects to elders and descendants, both past and present, of my people, the Eora people, the Gadigal people, we believe in our culture that those people are around us at those given times. So being on my cultural land here where my people have been for thousands of years, therefore means that there are thousands of my ancestors around me at any time. So each and every time I pay respects to them, they're around me and protecting me. And having said that, I'd like to say to each and every one of you here today, pardon me, I'd like to pay respects to your elders and descendants, both past and present too, because without those people, none of us would be here today. So it's wonderful. And just remember that, always keep that in mind at the end here when I say the few words of ending, just remember that as you walk on Gadigal land, Eora country, my people are walking beside you and protecting you, because I'll be asking them in a moment. I've got a couple of words I've written down here just for today because of Sorry Day. I had the wonderful opportunity 9 years ago on Sorry Day when it was announced they asked me to write a little speech and give it over at Redfern, one of our most important suburbs of Aboriginal history and culture. And I was looking for it today and I couldn't find it. I wanted to come bring it down and read it. So I just wrote this little bit out here for Sorry Day. National Sorry Day is an Australia-wide observance held on May 26th each year. This day gives people the chance to come together and share the steps towards healing for the stolen generations, their families and communities. Stolen generations refer to Indigenous Australians who were forcibly removed from their families and communities. In 1997, the National Inquiry into the Separation of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children from their families acknowledged that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children were forcibly removed from their families and communities. The practice of forcibly removing these children from their families occurred from the early 19th century up until the 1970s as part of a long-term government plan to assimilate Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people into the dominant non-Aboriginal community, Australian community I should say, known as the Stolen Generations. Without doubt, not one Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander family has escaped the effects of the trauma of removal. This week marks the 9th year anniversary of the national apology to the Stolen Generations when the Australian government, finally and formally acknowledged and apologised for the loss of language, culture and identity of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children who were removed from their families, yet there is still much work to be done towards social justice and healing for the stolen generations who remain lost. Unfortunately, a growing number of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children are growing up in and out of home care. So more Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children are being removed today than at any other time in Australian history. And it's quite significant. I just thought I'd write those couple of words down just to give us a bit of a reminder. But I'm here to do Welcome to Country, and I'll finish that now. It's wonderful being on my traditional land. And when I say Welcome to Country, I say welcome to my country, welcome to your country, welcome to our country, because we're all part of it. But me, being on my traditional land here in Sydney, and I say this cheekily to all the other traditional owners here today, because all of Australia is beautiful traditional land. But you know this is the best traditional land in the most beautiful city, in the most beautiful country in the world. And I get the opportunity to come out on days such as today and remind people of that. I've got no opposition then from the other traditional mob here, but growing up on this land here is quite, it's been quite wonderful. I was born at Loughborough where the Europeans first landed. My clan land runs from Circular Quay up to Redfern where I grew up. So my people, the Gadigal people, have had the longest continuous, unbroken association with Europeans since the settlement of Australia. And it's quite marvellous that I get once again to come out at these times and give welcome to country, because I'm telling you now, growing up in this beautiful city of ours was quite wonderful, and a lot of you people will remember, everywhere I go on my cultural land, my heritage land here in Sydney, I have a special connection, because naturally, being born here and growing up here, as a young man I drove heavy vehicles. There's no part of Sydney I don't know. It was my backyard before that. Then during those times it's more so my backyard, because I got to know it better. And then I worked in health with young daddy here for 20 say years or so. I just retired recently. So there's no part of Sydney I don't go. So everywhere I go on my traditional land, I have a special connection with it. And my special connection with this here spot right here was when that used to be a museum there, that building there. And we as young skinny black kids with rippy shorts used to come down and terrorise the staff around here. So having that special connection every time I go somewhere, no matter where in Sydney, I have a special connection with it. So to come here today and to invite you, all you wonderful Australians, to, you know, traditional land, it's really, really special. And each time I do that, so it doesn't matter if I do Welcome to Country once a year or 100 times a year, each and every time I do that, it's as special as the last time I've done it. And I like to know, I'll get people to get the feeling that I'm passionate about, and I love doing it, and I feel very, very privileged each and every time I have the opportunity. Now I'll pay respects to each and every one of you, because when I finish Welcome to Country, I'm going to hide over the back there, and I've got to run away because I've got to be somewhere else and do another welcome or sorry day. So I apologise for that. But just in closing, I'd like to say to each and every one of you, may the spirits of my ancestors walk beside, and I believe in this, we believe in this, guys, when we talk to our ancestors that are around us. Being on my country here, where my people have been for thousands of years, as I said a moment ago, naturally there are thousands of, I believe there are thousands of those people around us at any given time. So may the spirits of my ancestors walk beside you and protect you all whilst you're on Gadigal land, Eora country, as I know they walk beside and protect me. Thank you all very much, and I hope today's a wonderful event, and today's a wonderful day for each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle Ray Davidson. I'd now like to invite Alison Wood, Regional General Manager of Tafe, New South Wales, Sydney, to present the commemorative address.
Thanks, Uncle Ray, for those fantastic words. I can just imagine you terrorising the Powerhouse Museum over there a few metres away. I'd like to also acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to all the Aboriginal present today. And to acknowledge, as Uncle Ray said, the custodianship of this land for thousands and thousands of years, unbroken. National Sorry Day on the 26th of May every year is a day for us all to remember the extensive and systematic mistreatment and abuse of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people over many, many years, and as Uncle Ray mentioned, continuing today, right now. And to express our sorrow for the terrible injustices experienced by Aboriginal people across Australia, and in particular to the stolen generation and their families. And so it's my opportunity now to say I'm sorry. This day gives people the chance to come together and to share in saying sorry, but also, more importantly, in the steps that we all need to take together to heal for the stolen generation who were forcibly removed from their families and communities. This year's Sorry Day is particularly significant for a number of reasons. It marks 20 years exactly since the Bringing Them Home report. On the 26th of May in 1997, this report was tabled by Parliament, and it acknowledged Indigenous children have been forcibly separated from their families and communities since the very first days of European occupation in Australia by governments and missionaries systematically, and as Uncle Ray said, it's still happening today. It's also 50 years since the Australian referendum of the 27th of May 1967. So this was a momentous turning point and a defining event in our history. In 1967, the referendum altered the Australian Constitution by 90% vote of Australians voting yes to count Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in the census, and to give the government powers to make laws for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. It's also 25 years ago that the Mabo decision was made that commenced the process of acknowledging native title in Australia. On the 3rd of June, we'll commemorate the High Court of Australia's landmark Mabo decision in 1992, which legally recognised that the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have a special relationship with the land, a relationship that existed prior to colonisation and still exists today. And this is paving the way for native title that came after that. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to see Rachel Perkins' film that's on iView. It's a bit of a plug for the ABC, they're right across the road, but it's on iView at the moment, and it really is a significant piece of work that helps white people to understand what it must have been like to live in that time and what a powerful change was made through the Mabo decision. Today is a time for us to come together and acknowledge the devastation caused by Australia's Indigenous people, and to express a heartfelt apology to the stolen generations, their families, their communities. It's an opportunity for each one of us, and we really need to take this opportunity to reflect personally on this shameful, really shameful part of Australia's history, and to reach out and say sorry to our Aboriginal colleagues who are here today, to the students, the Aboriginal students who are here today, and to Aboriginal people everywhere, and to express our heartfelt desire to work towards a deep and meaningful reconciliation with Australia's First People. So like many of you, I've learned about the stolen generation in really a very strange and piecemeal way, and I was talking to Uncle Ray earlier about the fact that growing up in the 60s, going to a local public school in the 60s and high school in the 70s, there was nothing in our education that told me anything about what was happening to Aboriginal communities as I was growing up at the same time. It was a systemic secret being swept under the carpet. A lot of people were involved in this, but somehow white middle class kids didn't get to hear about it. So we've had to learn gradually over the years through pieces of work like the Mabo film, like Rabbit Proof Fence, like the literature that's available now. But this was clearly a really important part of how this happened, was the systemic way that Aboriginal families and communities were abused in secrecy, in the way that it was swept under the carpet. I can't simply imagine what it must be like, being a mother myself, to have my children removed. And I don't know if there's anybody here that could imagine what that must have been like, and what a terrible, life-shattering trauma that must have been for mothers, for children, and for communities everywhere. So it's clear that for decades there was a systemic strategy for dismantling Aboriginal culture, for Aboriginal communities, and this systemic repression of Aboriginal culture included another awful practice which I only learned about last week through the ABC, which was a program called Remembering the Days of the Dog Licence. Elder Auntie Dorrie Moore tells the story behind her father's certificate of exemption issued by the Aboriginal Welfare Board in 1957. This is completely new to me. You guys might all know about it, but it was news to me. Essentially, it explains in the program that the certificate of exemption was a licence granted to an Aboriginal person to live freely in the white man's world, and it allowed an Aboriginal person to move around, drink in public bars, enjoy other freedoms, that other Indigenous people were not allowed at that time, but holding the certificate of exemption meant effectively renouncing your Aboriginal culture and your heritage. So Auntie Dorrie Moore talked about when her father applied for the certificate. She was working in the Adelaide Hotel in Moruya down the south coast, but her own family could not drink in that hotel unless they had one of these certificates, which I'm really ashamed to say were commonly known as dog licenses. I was absolutely shocked when I heard this. This is so like apartheid here in Australia. Dorrie's niece, Maureen Davis, says it was a licence that stripped us of our culture, our language, our family. Because once this licence was issued, you couldn't visit your family. Her family remained on Wallaga Lake Mission. You couldn't speak the language or practice the culture. So clearly this was yet another systemic way that white people were attempting to really disintegrate the Aboriginal cultures. Despite the freedoms offered by the Certificate of Exemption, of the 14,000 Aboriginal people who were eligible in New South Wales, only 1,500 chose to apply. In May 1967, an overwhelming majority of Australians voted yes in the national referendum that recognised the Australian people in the census and could afford the federal government the power to override discriminatory state laws. And that was something that was, you really should see the Mabo theme on overview. I know I'm giving them a second plug, but it really explained how the Queensland state laws tried to overrule what was happening federally, to the point that, I don't know if any of you remember the Joh Bjelke-Petersen, but Joh Bjelke-Petersen actually made a law which was passed in Parliament overnight in secrecy in order to stop the progression of the Mabo case, which was what eventually led them to the High Court. So it wasn't until the Racial Discrimination Act of 1975 that the federal government used their new powers to legislate against racial discrimination in the provision of access to certain places, to accommodation, and to the provision of goods and services. It's hard to imagine that, you know, back in those days, it was not possible to go to a bar and have a drink, to get accommodation in the local hotel, that all of these things were not permitted to Aboriginal people. So there is a long way to go to achieve true reconciliation and equality, and obviously it's not going to be possible without our commitment and our purpose, everybody's, white and black. And it needs to be the goal of each of us every day. Really, Sorry Day probably should be the most important day in the calendar for Australians to acknowledge. I'm proud to say Tafe New South Wales is committed to improving the educational and employment outcomes of Aboriginal students. White and Aboriginal staff together have a strong belief that education is a key to bridging that gap between the lives of Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people. And so we're doing a number of things. We're starting to develop a New South Wales Reconciliation Action Plan. We're separating from the Department of Education at the moment, but as we do, we're developing a new organisational structures that will embed Aboriginal voices in our workplaces. Another step, which I'm really pleased to announce has just been decided in the last couple of weeks, is Tafe's decision to make sure that certificates 1, 2 and 3 in Aboriginal languages are free from fees. And what that means is that all Australians will have, wishing to learn these languages, will have access to them freely. And I think this is a really important step. Definitely in maintaining these languages and in supporting the Aboriginal cultures, language and culture being absolutely inextricably linked to one another. So look, obviously there's a long way to go, but I think that if we've got a shared belief and purpose, that this is where we want to go, that I'm sure that we will be able to make steps in that direction. What I'd like to do now is share with you the written Sorry Day apology issued by the Parliament of Australia. And I think, do you have copies of the address? I think some people do. So on the 13th of February 2008, the House of Representatives, Parliament House in Canberra, Prime Minister of the time, Kevin Rudd, made a formal apology to the Australian Indigenous people, particularly the stolen generation whose lives have been blighted by past government policies of forced child removal and Indigenous assimilation. So I'd like to ask you, if you would like to, purely voluntary, if you could join me in reading the first part of the Sorry Day apology. I just think it would be really fantastic if we could all read it together. I move that today we honour the Indigenous peoples of this land, the oldest continuing cultures in human history. We reflect on their past mistreatment. We reflect in particular on the mistreatment of those who were stolen generations, this blemished chapter in our nation's history. The time has now come for the nation to turn a new page in Australia's history by righting the wrongs of the past and so moving forward with confidence to the future. We apologise for the laws and policies of successive parliaments and governments that have inflicted profound grief, suffering and loss on our fellow Australians. We apologise especially for the removal of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children from their families, their communities and their country. For the pain, suffering and hurt of these stolen generations, their descendants and for their families left behind, we say sorry. To the mothers and the fathers, the brothers and the sisters, for the breaking up of families and communities, we say sorry. And for the indignity and the degradation thus inflicted on a proud people and a proud culture, we say sorry. I now invite Auntie Delma Curry, Aboriginal Elder and member of the Stolen Generation, and Danny Allende, College Director of Eora and Assistant Director of Aboriginal Pathways, to come forward and accept the presentation of the written apology. This framed copy of the written apology has been kindly donated by Jeannie Bartley, member of the Stolen Generation and Eora alumni student, who's with us here today. This is for Eora College and in acknowledgement of the Stolen Generations. And Jeannie, thank you so much for this really, really generous thing that you have done for us. On behalf of all the students and staff of Tafe, New South Wales, I'd now like to present you with the formal written apology. By recognising the wrongs of the past, together we will move forwards towards a reconciled, just and equitable Australia.
My name's Danny Allende. I'm a proud Wiradjuri Gomeroi man. I was born and bred on Gadigal land. I want to thank first of all Uncle Ray Daver for his work in the country. And yes, I did spend a lot of time working in Redfern, and without him knowing, he actually shaped who I am by guiding us as young kids, myself and Wesley Patton, Anthony Mundine, these sorts of fellas I grew up with. And I don't think we're the nicest kids in the world, but they certainly made sure that we were respectful. It is a tough day, probably a sombre moment more so. Each of our Aboriginal brothers and sisters here have got stories to tell. Before my grandfather passed away in the early 80s, he said, I've got no right to sit here and complain. And I don't, because it didn't happen to me, but it certainly happened to him. Like the stories I heard this morning, and you know, I can't imagine having 4 kids and my son at the age of 10 just being removed. Uncle Willie Leslie, you know, says it quite politely, but you know, I just don't know how I would survive without my kids. And to sit here and see them here today, I've got the utmost respect for them. This is not for me, this is not for Euro College. This apology is for them. Auntie Jeannie, you're always welcome to Euro College. You're a special person, and what you've done for us over the last couple of years has been, you know, extraordinary. Auntie Delma, you know, your stories, and Uncle Willie, how dare I sit here and accept something without saying thank you to you guys as well, because without you, I wouldn't be here today either. I suppose finally, I wanted to thank Alison and Deb for their kind words and their support of Aboriginal education. It's the first time we've had something like this in a long time. So it goes to show you when you've got great leaders that they're able to make some changes. Some of the people that we work with, Lynn Wilson, I can't speak highly enough of. When I think of her, I sometimes cry because she continually makes sure that non-Aboriginal people are aware of what we've been through. She sometimes gets in trouble a little bit from people, but I just want to say thank you to every staff member here. People like Paul Williams, you know, they're always there to support us, and so I thank you, Alison, for handing over this, and Jeannie for the apology. We'll proudly have it up at Euro College, and if I've forgotten anyone, I'm sorry. Auntie Leslie Yasso sitting there, who's been supporting Tafe for a very long time, a lot longer than what I have, and shared a special bond with my Auntie Liz. And I suppose I'll leave with a story. My auntie and many aunties and uncles used to run and hide and sit underneath bedrooms so they weren't taken away. This is not that long ago. I'll leave with the story that my auntie one day was giving birth and wasn't allowed to give birth in a hospital. She had to deliver the baby up the street. And I gave a speech before I came to Tafe to health, to doctors, surgeons, and the like. And I said, 30 years ago, my auntie couldn't deliver a baby in a hospital. And here we are today, graduating Aboriginal midwives. We've got Dr. Kelvin Kong, an Aboriginal surgeon. Where are we going to be in another 30 years' time? So I sort of take that with me. So I hope that in 30 years' time, where Eora College is going to be and where Tafe's going to be, and I know that with the support I got here today, we're certainly heading in the right direction. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Danny, and thank you to Auntie Jeannie, Auntie Delma, and to Alison. In 1998, Kerry Fletcher wrote the Sorry song for the stolen generations of Aboriginal Australians and Torres Strait Islanders. And the song is dedicated to all First Nations peoples whose life have been affected by the policy of the Indigenous child removal. I now invite Pollyanna Thompson, a very talented student studying music with us here at Ultimo, to perform the Sorry song. Thank you, Pollyanna, for that really fine performance of such a poignant song. I'd now like to call Alison Wood back to launch the Sorry Day travelling artwork.
Thanks, Deb. So today what we're doing is we're launching a travelling artwork. The canvas has been kindly prepared by Chico Monks. Many of you will know Chico. He's got a fantastic long history with the Eora campus. He's a talented artist and teacher at Eora. This canvas will travel across to campuses right across Sydney, and during National Reconciliation Week, where our student and staff can say sorry by placing their white paint fingertips onto the canvas. At the end of the week, the canvas will be presented at Eora College as a symbol of our apology and reconciliation. And then we'll hang it next to the written apology so that the two will be there together. I'm really happy to officially launch the Sorry Day travelling artwork, and I'm very, very happy to place my finger on as a symbol of my deepest and most sincere apology to Aboriginals, both past and present. And I encourage everyone, and I invite everybody who would like to participate to join me in that this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. So please make sure that you do, as Alison asked, and that's to express our sorrow through our fingerprints on the travelling artwork. So this comes to the end of our event. Thank you all for attending. I'd like to just say a couple of thank yous. I'd like to thank particularly our Aboriginal elders for sharing their stories with us today and being part of this day and helping us understand what you have been through and bravely doing that. And I know it's not an easy day, and I appreciate you being here with our broader Tafe community, or as often we think in Tafe, they're our Tafe family. So thank you, Pollyanna, for your amazing rendition of the Sorry song, and she learned that at very, very short notice. I'd like to thank our lots of staff who've contributed, our hospitality staff who are putting on lunch, and I'd like to a particular thank you to our Student Association with Laurie and Luana, and also Rachel is here, who basically the three of them have organised so much of today, and I really would like us to thank them. So, as Alison said, we hope that by helping to recognise the wrongs of the past, we're moving forward towards a reconciled, just and equitable Australia. So please stay around and enjoy lunch, leave your fingerprints on the Sorry Day travelling workshop, and also please take the opportunity to go and say sorry to our Aboriginal elders who have suffered through our policies. Thank you.
And then you're going to see these guys.
That's what I've got to me.
1825, Tafe started. 1974, first program to enrol Aboriginal students.
Yeah, she's coming.